Hello.
Hello.
That was weird. Something popped up. Just help. I don't need help. Get out of here, Microsoft Teams. I pressed play, and then it was like, here's a window. I'm like, that's never even happened before. Anyways,
That's not the window.
that is not the window that was going to be helpful. It was trying to be. It didn't make any sense. Welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. Thank you for being here, everybody. It's nice to see you all. There's a lot of you in the chat. Thank you. I'm so excited. Yeah, this is Don't Worry Wednesday. It's a show where we talk about topics of problems and struggles we're all going through, and hopefully give some words of wisdom, if not just a different perspective, or just hash it out, work through it with you, And we aren't professional psychologists or psychiatrists or anything along those lines, but we've experienced things in our lives that we'd like to share, and hopefully they can be of help to you. And that's what friends do, and that's what we want to be. Good friends, good people that help move this world in a better direction. So I know a lot of you are awesome, and you're out there doing the same thing, making the world spin, making it try to spin in a better direction. You guys are really awesome and lovely, and so we appreciate everything you add to the chat, everything that you anything you guys add to the topics that we're talking about today is really helpful. So we really appreciate whenever you guys step up and do that. But even if you're just listening, thank you so much, because it makes a big difference. I know in my life, I've gained so much from just listening. There so much peace of mind just listening, but also just strategies of how to interact with people better, or how to go about solving my issues, or whatever they are. So listening's great. So thank you for honoring us with your ears. But yeah, welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. Thank you guys. How are you all today? Are you all doing great? I hope you are. Joe, how are you doing today?
Phantasmic.
So that's a kind of a weird mix of words, just because you've got fantastic, which is like fantastical, and what's tasmic? What's the mic come from?
I don't know.
Oh.
It kind of rolled off my mouth. I was like, hey,
okay, well, that's fine. All right. Well, if it's mythical, then it's kind of what fantasy is, anyways. It's fantasy and mythic, so it's phantasmic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Phantasmithic.
Phantasmithic.
Something. We'll figure it out later.
Maybe it had McDonald's and you're just, phantasmic Donald's. McD's.
Phantasmic chicken.
Yeah. I'm not big on any of the McDonald's, just gonna be honest.
Me neither.
It's not satisfying. Whenever I eat it, I'm just like, I feel gross inside, and
right, like I just ate that. Like...
Yeah. Yeah, weird.
And then you get the gut bomb feeling for a while. And
yes.
You're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how people. I guess other people's stomachs, if they're used to it, they're used to it. But I don't know how you avoid that feeling, like that gut bomb. Doesn't feel good. But
I don't know either.
Yeah, and then I just feel like my energy is drained for the rest of the day. Like, what is going on? I kind of understand it. They say that those French fries are pretty hard to digest.
Well, they are chock full of preservatives. I have heard about their fries that you can, if you happen to find one under the seat of your car that's been there for months and months and months on end, you can eat it and just be fine.
Well, I believe that, because I bet you a great number of kids have done that. A great number of little children have done that, I am sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
You can eat that. Right. I wouldn't recommend it. No, exactly, Baka. Yeah, it's kind of like drugs. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. It's like the opposite of Nike.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Nike. That's right. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Days can be hard. Yeah, days can be hard. I hope everyone finds a moment of light. Yeah, thank you, August Stars. Yeah, I agree. That's entirely true. Every day is a new day, and you never know what you're going to get hit with, and sometimes your days are just real tough. And it's good to have like you just said, a moment of life, a moment of peace, a moment of good thought and enjoy that can help you just go through that day. But anyways, yeah. So let's get on with that, right? Let's get the show going.
Yes, let's do
it. By the way, not sponsored by McDonald's, but if you do want to, we will sponsor you. Just don't expect us to like your food anymore. But there are people out there who like it, so I don't think they need our sponsorship. All right. Well, I'm gonna go through the go through the list real quick here. I see Baka. Would you mind if we do your topic? I see that you're in the chat here with us, and you've got a topic ready and rearing to go. So would that be all right? Egg.
I think it would be all right.
All right. Well, Baka says it would be all right too. So perfect.
Perfect. That's the real kicker. If it's all right with you, it's all right with us.
That's right. Okay, let's see here. All right. Feels like it's been forever since I've done this.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna pull this up.
It has.
Yeah.
Been
Been forever or less. I'm gonna put this right up on the screen for you guys if you want to read along. If you don't, just keep your ears open, I guess. Don't close them. That would be ineffective. All right. This is from Baka. It reads as follows. My first year of college was stressful, to put it simply. Adding to the stress, an event occurred that brought people all the way from Canada to New York City. This event unlocked emotions that I had tried to bury deep down. To say it broke me down would put it lightly. Just knowing everything my father wasn't there for and won't be there for. It sends me into a mix of panic, anxiety, pain, and fear. It only gets worse thinking of talking to others about it. The person I want to talk about it the most to, I fear that I will cause them more pain. With college and work, I haven't had time to spend time with my family. I finally have time to go visit them in weeks. Time yet I have hold on. Visit them
in a week's time.
Oh, wait. Okay. I finally have time to go visit them in a week's time. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Wow. Sorry about that. I finally have time to go visit them in a week's time. Yet I have this fear that I won't be able to bring it up. This just throws me into an emotional spiral just thinking of it. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're totally fine, Baka.
Yeah, no.
I'm not an English major either.
Yeah, and I'm not a reading major. So thanks for helping, Joe. So when you read something, you're like, that didn't come out right. So definitely, I read something wrong. You're fine.
Well,
you're fine.
Missed the A.
Yeah, I missed the A.
You skipped right past it.
Right past it. Both times I read it. So, anyways, yeah. Thank you so much, Baka. Thank you for the topic, and thank you for putting your heart out on the line for us. I know that, I'm not sure what the event was that occurred, where Canada came to New York City and all that kind of stuff. I don't really have much to say on that, but I do understand, you have people, you have this pain still hasn't left you about your father passing, and it was a while ago. I remember when that happened. That's hard. That was very hard. When you're close to anyone, it's a traumatic experience to go through their death, and to just know they're not able to enjoy any of the things that you want to share with them. It's a very difficult experience. And it's real, and so thank you for sharing that with us. And then you got some time to spend with your family back home, and there are things you want to talk about, and that becomes really hard because even just thinking about talking about those things ties you up in a knot, and that's really relatable. That's very, very relatable. And I'm sure a lot of us go through that kind of feeling for different reasons. Maybe it's something that we did that we really need to talk about with them, or maybe it's just something that happened that's near and dear to our heart and we don't know how to address it, or maybe it's something they did that, it's like I don't know how to talk to them about what they did that was harmful or whatever, or maybe even something good, like, wow, this person did something really lovely and I just want to give them my thanks, but it's like so hard to do that and I don't know, it tears me in pieces just trying to figure out what do I do. So there's all sorts of reasons in life. And so I hope hopefully we can give you some encouragement and some courage going into that, battlefield, if you will. I know that you're on your way to being a police officer, and so there's a lot of things here that you're gonna have to deal with death possibly in that field, and you're gonna have to deal with confronting and people with hard discussions and having to have that courage in your journey as in your job, but also just in life in general. And I think everybody needs that. So, anyways, I'm gonna get it out of the way here. I'm gonna give it over to the star of our show, Joe, and
Star.
and that's right. You are a shining
He
star.
called me the
You're
star.
a shining star. Thank you. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna give it over to Joe, and I hope that we can help you.
Baka, I am so sorry. I know this feeling all too well. The feeling of panic, anxiety, and fear and pain. And there have been a great many times when I've experienced it. And it's not any fun. It's tough to deal with, And man, I've learned a few things as I go through this, right? And so first of all, you've talked about emotions that you've tried to bury, and that I've definitely done that. I've done it. I probably continue to do it on an unconscious level. But I also realize that some emotions that I've buried have come back to haunt me years and years later. In fact, I spent, oh boy, the better part of 2 decades burying anger and frustration and just burying it and not acknowledging it and not releasing it, not expressing it, just hey. And I had thought that I was this like pinnacle of, self-control, because look at how great I am at controlling my anger, right? And so like I had just, it was crazy. But now, years later, and I'm going through this stuff with a therapist, and she's helping me through this stuff, and also a priest. We go through different things that made me angry, different things that were frustrating, different things that were really hard to deal with, different things that I didn't even understand were happening that I now understand more about. And but all those feelings that I had buried just turned into this big ball of junk. And now on the other side, now that I'm trying to heal from all of this stuff and I'm trying to get myself put back together, it's pretty crazy, because I'll think I'm doing pretty good, and I'll think I've got a handle on it, and I'll think that everything's going great, and like, all right, cool, I've handled this, I've worked through some of this stuff now and everything like that. But then all of a sudden, it's like I unlock a whole nother portion of this big junk ball that's of emotion that I've buried for years and years and years. And it just comes spilling out. And then I don't even know how to handle it. Anxiety goes crazy. Depression goes crazy. There's just panicking and all kinds of stuff. And so I understand where there are things that can trigger us emotionally, especially when it kind of starts to touch the things that we've buried deep down. And there are ways to express these things, and you talk about the person you want to talk about it the most to, you fear that it will cause them more pain. And I understand your fear, and I'm not telling you to go and bring it up with them. I'm not telling you to do that, but I will also tell you that sometimes the fear of causing somebody pain may be a bit unfounded, because sometimes things hurt and we have to deal with them, and they're going to hurt while we deal with them. And so maybe this person also needs to express this emotion and be relieved of it, and to release it properly rather than bury it, right? But sometimes that means bringing up these painful moments that are really, really hard to deal with. And we might be angry, we might be frustrated, we might have to forgive, we might be angry at a situation and it's nobody's fault. And so we can't direct our anger at somebody. And then, but we're upset, maybe we're upset with somebody for something that happened and they had no choice in the matter, or they had no, they weren't at fault. It's not like they did it on purpose, or, we feel like maybe we're not even legitimately supposed to be angry, but we are, or we're frustrated. And in those moments, forgiveness is key. And I know I've talked about this before, but sometimes when life does something to us, sometimes we have to forgive the world for being stupid, or for being painful, or for being hurtful. And we have to take a look at that experience, and we have to, and the forgiveness really is only effective when we forgive while we're experiencing that pain. And it was so weird to walk through this, because I had to dig up a whole bunch of old memories, things that were frustrating and made me upset. And then I had to relive those in order to make myself feel that pain again. And in the midst of that pain, forgive the person, forgive the event, forgive the world, forgive whoever, right? In the midst of that, and say, man, this really hurts. What happened really hurt me. And sometimes it's what you did really hurt me. And we don't have to do it expressed to that person, but we can do this all within our mind, and we can imagine that person being in front of us, or that thing, or whatever. And we can say, that really, really hurt me, and I forgive you. And I learned that forgiveness is an act of the will. It's not something we do because we feel like it, but it's healing. And sometimes we need to forgive multiple times in order to truly get past something. And it can be hard, and it can break our hearts over and over again. It can make us cry. It can make us have to lie down on our bed and write. I was actually doing that just a couple hours before we got on this show. I was laying in my bed, just pouring my heart out on paper, dealing with stuff that had happened in the past, stuff that's coming up, new events that are like, because some things can trigger those, and they can make them harder. Like, you're talking about this event that people came to Minnesota, from Canada and New York City. They came all the way to Minnesota for this event, and it brought up a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes events can do that to us. And so there were hurtful events that happened presently, plus along compounded with stuff that happened in the past that was triggering. And there was just this huge, huge emotional outburst, right? And I had to pour myself out onto a piece of paper and just lay there for a little while. And it was a real struggle. It was a real struggle. And it's also good if you can have some trusted friends around to talk to or to help. And man, but I tell you, I understand that feeling so well, of things that are buried, that are coming to the surface, that you have to now deal with. And no matter how much, like, the first instinct might be to try and rebury it. But then it's just going to still sit there. And it's going to still be hard because it will come up again. And it might even affect your day-to-day behavior. It might affect the way that you interact with people. It might affect the way that the way you treat people, or how close you let people get to you. There might be real issues that that you've built up defense mechanisms that now anytime something even remotely close to that happens, or it starts looking like that might even come close to happening, your defense mechanism's already up, your radar screen is like on high alert, and you're just you get on edge. And it can be really tough. And I know, so a couple things you can do that have a few things have helped me understand, especially when it comes to anxiety. Anxiety is basically when our mind goes from the front part of our mind to the back. It goes to the limbic system, which is our fight or flight response. Fight, flight, or freeze. Those are kind of the three responses. And I'm a freeze person, right? Like, I can remember having massive anxiety attacks years ago, and I would just go catatonic. I was unresponsive and it freaked people out. And I was there, but I wasn't there. I couldn't do anything. I was frozen. And when our brain, when our processing goes to the limbic system, we're in reaction mode, right? And we can't logically think through something. We can't process things properly. We're just, oh, I got to react. I got to react now. And then panic attacks happen and stuff like that, right? And so what I've learned is that just that mere understanding of this is what's happening in my brain helped me realize, and I got some tools from my therapist on how to, like, some different things I can do in order to move the process back to the thinking part of my brain rather than the limbic system, right? And so what you can do is I will do something really simple, like snap my fingers on one side and then snap my fingers on the other side, and I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and I'll just do that for a little while, because just that one thing alone, it helps our mind focus on, a detail as simple as, I'm doing this on my right and I'm doing this on my left. And those details then start to refocus our mental energy and bring it out of that limbic system, right? So you can do that. You can dance, dance like nobody's watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
I usually dance when nobody's watching.
Not like nobody's watching. Yep, very different.
Yes. Yep. Just basically, when nobody's watching, I will dance. And then if somebody starts watching, then I probably have an anxiety attack again. But anyway, but these are things that you can do. You can, but it's really important. My therapist told is really important to switch from right to left and back and forth, right? Back and forth from right to left. And this, what it does is it increases mindfulness. Another part of mindfulness, what that is being present in the here and now. I had a friend walk me through an anxiety attack one time and just start asking me questions. Like, what color is the paper you're holding in your hands? What are you doing right now? And I was fiddling with a piece of paper. What color is the piece of paper? How does it feel in your hands? What does the paper smell like? You don't have to taste the paper, but you can imagine what it would taste like, and you start to get your senses involved. And this all increases mindfulness of being present in the moment. And when you can do that, it will start to calm you down and it will bring things back to your proper thinking part of your brain. So as you're experiencing this anxiety and fear and all this kind of stuff, you can start to practice mindfulness in whatever, moment you're in. Maybe you're driving. I had to do this while I was driving, and so I'd just look around. I'd see trees, and I'd think, oh, man, those trees are interesting. Or I'm standing out looking out my back porch, and I look at a tree that's fairly close, and I start looking at all the details and zoning in on the details of the bark on the tree. And then maybe I will go and touch it so I can feel what it feels like. And these things help bring us back. So out of the anxiety, out of that moment of that heightened, fight or flight or freeze response. So these are some things that you can do that might help with this, right? But I will tell you, man, the fear of something coming up is huge sometimes. I know I've had events on the horizon where I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, this is happening, this is coming up, and I'm scared of it. And I don't want this to happen, but it's happening anyway, and I have no control over whether or not it happens. And I know it's going to happen, and I'm going to be in that situation, and it just can conjure up all these feelings like what you're experiencing, this fear, this anxiety, all this stuff. And I have to remind myself that, you know what? This time is going to pass. You know? Simply, one thing that's helped me is simply explaining to myself, you know what? I'm going to go to this thing. I'll use myself as an example. When I had my divorce hearing coming up, when everything was going to be finalized and everything like that, it was really an anxious time. There was a whole bunch of contention. It was crazy, and I was really glad I had a good lawyer, and I was like, oh my gosh, but it was still seeing that on the horizon brought up so much fear and anxiety and stress. It was crazy. And I had to remind myself that, you know what? I'm going to go into that courtroom. I'm going to sit down. The judge is going to ask some questions and we're going to talk through some stuff and then it's going to be over. And the key point is knowing that it's going to be over. This time is going to come, it's going to pass, and it's going to be over. And when I can remind myself of that, it helps to start bring a little bit of calm back into my mind. And also, my personality type is notorious for being bad at this, but we have to remember that emotions are like the weather. Emotions come and go. Just because we're upset right now doesn't mean we're going to be upset tomorrow. Just because we're having this big emotional time right now, all that tells me is that right now, this is what I'm experiencing. But in my mind, I will trick myself and I'll say, oh, this is just how life is going to be forever. But it's just not the case. Emotions come and go like the weather. And it can be helpful to remind yourself of that when you're in this state. It's hard sometimes because when we're in that state, we're in fight or flight mode and we're just like, oh my gosh, everything's freaking out. And then we're in that moment and we're consumed by it. It can be hard to remind ourselves that, hey, this is just an emotional thing that's happening. It's going to pass. And I'm not going to feel this emotion forever. So, I don't know. Hopefully some of that's helpful for you. I've already talked for a little while. I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan and see what he has to say. So, Baka, again, I am so sorry. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, for opening up and sharing it. And it might also be helpful in this experience to see if you could find a therapist if you don't have one,
Hmm.
a psychiatrist, psychologist, just a counselor, somebody to talk to that is detached from the situation, that can help you kind of sort through these things and just make heads or tails of what's happening. So anyway, yeah, that's all. And thank you. And I'm so sorry. And you're amazing, Baka. And now I'll turn it over to Ryan. So Ryan,
All right.
all
Yeah.
yours.
No. Thank you for all that, Joe. I think that honestly, you said so many things. It was helpful. I don't know necessarily what to follow it up with. Um, there's there's a lot to take in. So you know, Baka, I understand. You know, there's a lot of hardness going on, and it's a lot of conglomerate of a lot of things, and so there's a lot of things to try to address, and it seems to me that you're being overwhelmed. Um, I mean, I think it's obvious that you're being overwhelmed. You recognize that you're being overwhelmed, and that's why you are where you are, and it's a hard place to be, obviously. And so, I'd recommend going back and just listening to a lot of what Joe said if you if you feel like there was some parts you didn't catch, just because there was a lot there, and trying to catch every bit of it is might be difficult. Um, I often listen to things multiple times, when I listen to people speak, because I know that my own brain wanders and gets carried away, or even just listening back a couple of times, I'm like, I didn't even know he said that part. That part would have been helpful, you know, and
Right?
so yeah, I recommend just going back and listening to what Joe said. I think that it was really helpful. At least I hope it will be. You know, um, when we're overwhelmed, sometimes we create a trap in our brain as if we want to be overwhelmed because it
Mm,
justifies the fact that we're overwhelmed.
mm-hmm.
Um, as human beings, we don't like to admit that we can be overwhelmed, let's say. And so when
Mm,
something does overwhelm us, it we want to make it appear in our brains and in everybody else's brains that it is more difficult and impossible and crazy to get through, so that we can justify the fact that we're currently overwhelmed. And you see that in all the
mm,
time. You see that all the time in people. Maybe they get angry, and then, or maybe they're having a rough day. It's like, my kids won't listen to me today. Just as an example, my kids won't listen to me today, and someone comes along and they're like, "Well, have you tried?" And they're like, "No, that never works." And it's like, "Well, what about if you
mm,
tried this?" And they're like, "No, if I did that, this would happen." And it's like, okay, well, what happens if you try this? And they're just like, everything you say, they shut down. They shut you down
mm,
with everything you say. And I don't
mm-hmm.
mean you're doing that to us right now, by the way. Don't take it that way. What I do mean to say is sometimes we do that to ourselves. And I want to help you avoid that trap in case you're doing it. I'm not saying that you are, because I don't know what's going on in your brain. But I know that personally, and I think in pretty much everybody I see, when you get overwhelmed, there's this sense of pride that says, if I'm overwhelmed, and then whatever this is, it must be and something that's like really big and impossible and should be shutting me down. And so then whenever we try to make movement forward, we have this blockade that says, yeah, but remember how big this is. You can't handle this, because that's how you feel. And you want to justify that feeling and justify the fact that you're weak to it.
Mm,
Because no one
mm-hmm.
wants to be weak to anything. But we have to admit that we are in order to get through things sometimes. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's one of those things of like, again, I'm not saying this is your Buck. I'm not saying at all that this is you. I'm just putting this out there because I know this is a common trap that we all fall into from time to time. And so sometimes we might look at something and say, gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I've got so much going on. I've got all of these things, and they're all stacking on top of each other. And so everywhere my mind turns, there's this oppressive nature that is knocking me down. And part of that is our brain is looking for the oppression to knock ourselves down, to justify that, to justify our weakness, which is a weird thing. And so what sometimes we need to do is break free of that and admit that, like, hey, look, I'm a human. I was thrown into this world. I don't know myself. I didn't know myself when I was thrown in. And as I go through life, I hope I'm learning about myself. And I hope that in learning about myself, I'm becoming the person I want to be. But there's so much that we don't know. And a lot of times what we end up doing in life is reacting to ourselves, right? Because we don't, it's like this, like the music you like, for example. You know, you come into life, and around the age of 7, maybe you hear something, you're like, I like that. That really got me going. I'm going to listen to it over and over and over and over and over and over. Well, that's something you discovered. It isn't by design inherently, like, that's something you discover about yourself. You don't just know that. You didn't know, like, oh, I know exactly what song and everything that's going to happen in the song that's going to get me, like, addicted to music. It's not like that. You discover yourself in that, which is an amazing thing. And so sometimes my point is, you have to admit that what you're dealing with is overwhelming. Then you have to admit that it doesn't need to be justified. And you need to work on building yourself up so that it's no longer overwhelming. Rather than trying to create excuses as to why things are so overwhelming. You know? And I'm not saying that you are doing that. I just want to say, again, if I can prevent you from doing that, then that's good. Because I know we all fall into that. And so it's okay to recognize, like, hey, I don't know everything about myself. I'm just reacting to my, like, sometimes I feel an emotion. And it's like, well, now I have to figure out why I'm feeling that emotion. I have to search inside. I have to search deep. Like, sometimes, like, literally, sometimes in the middle of the day, I'll be hit with guilt. And I'll be like, what did I do? What did I do that went wrong? Something went wrong. I don't know what it is. And I'll look, and I'll be studying my day backwards, and I'll be like, and I'll find it, and I'll be like, that's it. Oh my gosh. How is that possible? How is it possible that I felt that guilt? I don't even know what it was there. Like, I don't even remember that I did it. Like, I had no idea. And so then I have to go back and just, you know, make sure everything's okay in that scenario, like with that person or with that thing or whatever I did. Kind of weird, right? And so, and I'm not saying we all experience that particular thing, but we all experience things like that. You know, maybe we get angry and we're like, why are we so angry? Well, this happened. But why does that make you angry? I don't know, because it's wrong and I was mistreated. Well, why does something wrong and you being mistreated make you angry? Like, why would that make you angry? Why would that make you angry? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's just things and stuff. It's just things and stuff. It's like, well, well, blah, blah, blah. You know, you have a reason for it. I mean, I'm not saying that being wronged shouldn't make you angry. I'm just saying you have to figure out those reasons. You have to dive into yourself and learn about those things. So, again, kind of hitting at this in a weird roundabout way, but my point is, again, when we're overwhelmed, that's to be expected. You should expect in life to be overwhelmed. Because you don't know everything. And not only can you not know everything, you can't control barely anything of it. So of course you'd be overwhelmed. You know, when you're searching for control to control things, right? When you want to control things, you're going to be overwhelmed because you can't. You know, part of anxiety, fear, and panicking is the notion that the future is going to go bad, and you don't want that. And so what you want is to control it so that it doesn't go bad. And it's like, well, obviously, what's wrong with that? And it's like, well, inherently that doesn't sound like there's anything wrong with that, but there is. Because if you control everything, well, I guess you're a tyrant, you get your way, no one else gets theirs. Or maybe your way is everybody's way. That's not a thing. And so, not only that, like, if you control everything, then when do you ever need courage? When do you ever need virtue? And so when we're contested with anxiety and fear for the future, and it's so scary that it puts us in not only just panic, but physical pain, I think part of it is that desire for control, that desire for power, that you have to recognize, like, hey, look, I came into this world naked. And it's like, that's where I still am now. Like, I don't know how to explain that better. Hold on.
You're wearing clothes, Ryan.
You're naked to... You're, okay, vulnerable. That's a better word. I came into this world vulnerable, and I'm still vulnerable now. And you can do a great number of things to build your tower of walls, so to speak, and exile all things that make you vulnerable. But at that point, when you do that, there's no healing. There's nothing anyone can do for you and interact with you in a real way. And it requires someone to come in and knock it down before you can. And that's a great deal of pain, to be knocked down from that tower. But it's required in order for you to move forward in life. Or otherwise, you become a villain, a tyrant. The people we look at and go, that person's not a good person. And so you don't want to be that. So you have to accept in life that things are going to be overwhelming, because it's out of our control. And I suppose my advice in all this is let go of some of that desire for control. I don't mean don't try to do things in your life. I don't mean don't set goals. I don't mean don't try to control the good things in your life and make things good. I don't mean that, of course. But I mean to recognize that your fear about the future is, the root might be the fact that you can't control it. The bottom line is you can't control your future, in all assets, in all ways, I mean. And so to come to terms with that really can give you a sense of peace, because you stop worrying about the fact that you're trying to control what you can't control. You stop wasting energy, and you find yourself just going, you know what? I'll play it by ear, because that's all I can do anyways, because I don't know what's going to hit me. So when it does, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to train myself to be the best person I can be. So when that moment of contention comes, I'm the best person for that moment. And when you do that, the anxiety flees, because it is not, like, just by nature, your understanding that you don't understand also, but your understanding of not knowing, but your understanding of saying, hey, I've built myself up for the moments ahead. There's nothing that I need to fear anymore. That's a hard place to get to, but I think, and none of us ever arrive there, but I think that we can do well to try that and move forward. Pake, you've added some things here. You said, with moving to college, it feels like I have ran away from my problems, and hiding from them. Now it feels like I'm running into the wall I put up. Yep. I've closed myself in and have nowhere to go. Yeah. I know facing that problem that I built up the emotional wall from, it feels that I hide from confronting the truth and fixing the issue. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. And so I would highly recommend just being vulnerable, because you're not going to learn anything otherwise. And that's a hard, very hard. Like, it almost makes me cry thinking about that right now, just because, like, my eyes, my tear ducts are watering. You might not be able to see it. But that's a that's a hard that's a hard truth to live. But you have to choose to be vulnerable in life. And I don't mean that in the extreme case where you don't live your life. You have to stand up for things, right? Of course.
Mm.
But you can't simultaneously stand up for things and not put yourself out there ready to be attacked.
Mhm.
So when you stand up for things, you make yourself vulnerable, and you can't do both. So you can't do one without the other is what I meant to say. You can't not do both. You have to do both. And so when you intend to stand up for something you believe in, you put yourself out there. And if you then do that and then you put up walls, it's not going to go anywhere. And so yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've said enough, and I hope that some of that is encouraging and helpful, because life is hard and it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And when you accept vulnerability into your life, it sounds opposite. It sounds like a paradox, but what you find in the end is greater peace.
Mm.
Because here's the truth of the matter: you can choose to be vulnerable, or you can choose to put up walls. But the enemies are going to be storming in, coming in either way. And you're not going to ever make a difference in your enemies' lives if all you do is build a tower for them to destroy. But if you meet them at their table, you might make a difference. And that requires some vulnerability.
Mhm.
So if you have something you need to talk to someone about, and it's really hard, and you feel like you've run away from something, and yeah, like you said, then yeah, I think the only answer is to do that. Is to sit at their table, have a talk with them. Be willing to be vulnerable for them so that they can be impacted by you. And that's hard.
Mhm.
And you know what? Some people won't learn. Some people will never change. Well, they're always changing, but regardless, what I mean is some people you won't make a difference in. Some people you will. But if you put up walls, you're not going to make a difference in anybody's lives, and you're going to be stale and stagnant, like a pond infested with bacteria. Stagnant water. That's what you'll be. And that's not good, not healthy. And when you become stagnant water, this is what happens. You get all these things that pile up and overwhelm you and break you down. And that's a good thing, because their intention is to break you down so you can build yourself back up the right way. So don't take this as a bad moment in your life. Take it as the opportunity that you're being given as a blessing to change and move forward and to knock your walls down. I think that's maybe what you need to do. That's maybe the lesson here. But anyways, that's what I've got. Joe, I'm gonna give it back over to you in case you want to add anything.
Um, yeah, I mean, I love what you talked about, Ryan, and it is true that, like the more we can focus on being the best us that we can be,
Mm-hmm.
the more I can focus on being the best me I can be, the more I will have the strength to deal with things as they come my way, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know that absolutely happens. And the more I pursue virtue, the stronger I get in those areas. Now, sometimes things still just knock you off course, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
sometimes these things are gifts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk, Baca, you said, I know facing the problem that I built up the emotional wall from, it feels like I hide from confronting the truth and fixing the issue. This might be a good time to find a counselor to talk with this problem about. Now, I'll tell you this, it can be embarrassing to let our guard down with another person, you know, when we go through some of these things, right? Even if it's a therapist and we're paying them to do this, right? Or they're getting paid by our insurance or whatever. But you know, like having somebody to help you sort through that's a professional might really, really be helpful for you
Yeah.
in this case. Um because I know that I've ran from problems and not faced them and not addressed them, and then I really needed help, you know, in coming back to address them because they do need to be addressed, you know. The more It seems like the more I have run from problems, like Ryan said, you know, the enemy is still going to storm the gates,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether you have a wall there or not, you're
Yep.
still going to get attacked. And so it's better to be able to put the thing to rest, at least to put our feelings of the situation to rest, you know, because then we can see it as it is. And like Ryan was talking about an opportunity. Now, sometimes opportunities and gifts do not look like opportunities and gifts.
No, it's like, are you kidding me? This is my gift, an opportunity. This feels terrible. I hate you.
This is
Yeah.
not fun at all, right? I've had multiple arguments with God over stuff like this, right?
Mm.
And it's crazy. And but what you learn some of the times as you go through things, now it doesn't happen automatically. It's not like a switch that gets flipped. Some of these things are gradual and you have to handle them. And they have to be worked through. And you might have to forgive multiple times. You might have to forgive multiple people multiple times. You might have to go forgive yourself multiple times. You might have, you know, there might be behaviors that you're doing that are, you know, making it hard for you to grow that you might have to forgive yourself for over and over and over again because, you know, I notice, hey, I go to confession a lot and, you know, like, I find myself confessing the same stuff
Mm-hmm.
a lot. You know, I'll bring up the same stuff. It's like, okay, well, here's my list of stuff that I've done. You know, it's the same as it was last week with maybe a couple modifications. You know, whatever. And you know, but it's a process, right? And over time, we can grow. Now, sometimes we are given a gift that hurts. We're given a gift that causes us all kinds of turmoil and messes up our life for a while. And you start to see on the other side of it, these things, they soften our hearts when we are vulnerable, like Ryan was talking about. When we can be vulnerable and allow the situation to happen, allow ourselves to feel the pain and to work through it, then what happens is it tenderizes our hearts. It softens our hearts to those around us. And we might be able to relate with a person that no one else can relate to just quite the same way we can. And it took going through that experience of pain and hardship and suffering in order to soften our hearts to the point where we can understand at a level that's beyond what they would expect, and even what we would expect.
Mm-hmm. Right. Surprise yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've been given really, really painful gifts sometimes. And sometimes I'm given those painful gifts by the very person that I'm trying to help through whatever, right? And what I'm learning is that it's softening my heart to empathize and relate with the situation that I'm trying to help with. It's almost like sometimes it's contagious. Like I don't know. You spend time around somebody who's going through tough stuff, and you kind of maybe this is just me, but sometimes that same situation starts to find its way into my heart and mind, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is giving me a chance to understand the pain that this person's going through. It's giving me a chance to really, really to feel with them and for them. And what it's going to do is it's going to help me guide them. And the weirdest thing is, I talk about this stuff, right? And I go through stuff. We all go through stuff. And I find myself talking about my own experiences and realizing what it's done is it's given me compassion. Going through these painful experiences, it gives me compassion. Like Ryan said, Baka, you are in training to become a police officer. And so you're going to experience people at really, really difficult times in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I was a property inspector. And what my job as a property inspector was when I did it was, I would go and I would experience people at a time in their life when they were about to lose their house, or they were facing that as a reality or as a potential reality, and it was looming over them. And the stress that they were going through was ridiculous, and it's hard. And one of the best things that set me up for doing that job effectively was that a handful of years prior, I had lost my house because of bad finances. And so I understood the pain. I understood the stress. I understood the level of what they were going through in their mind and how crushing it was. And because I could relate at that level, that guided my interaction with them and my ability to handle them in a way that I'd have multiple times as a property inspector. People would come out just screaming and yelling, oh my gosh, this is horrible, blah, 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 blah. And I'd just let them talk for a little bit, and I'd listen, and I'd say a few words, and I'd let them talk, and I'd let them, and maybe I'd say a few more things. But it was treating them with the understanding of what they were going through, because I had been through it. And I had been through those feelings, and I knew how it must feel to be them at this moment. Now, every experience is a little bit different, but our emotional turmoil can be very similar, right? It can hurt, and we know it hurts, and it binds us up inside. And there were multiple times people would come out screaming and yelling, and I'd sit there and talk to them for a few minutes, and then by the end, they're like hugging me and telling me I'm an angel and all this kind of stuff, but the experience, this going through the stressful experience of losing my own house, equipped me with the ability to handle the situation when I was facing it on a day-to-day basis of other people who were losing their houses or who were in financial stress or who were, facing, foreclosures and stuff like that. It was just crazy. And you start to realize, hey, we're put here and we handle this stuff. And if we can not harden our hearts, if we can be vulnerable and let the experience pound us, and sometimes it feels like it's just pounding us into the ground, pounding us into the dirt, and we're just like, oh my gosh, like, you want to talk about tenderized heart, man? Big old meat tenderizer hammer thing, just pound, pound, pound until it's practically demolished. And then, but now I'm tenderized. I'm a little bit softer. I'm a little bit more understanding. I'm a little bit more compassionate. I'm a little bit more tactful.
Mm-hmm. Can navigate
And
scenarios you never would have been able to.
Exactly.
Like you can't put a stick through a maze, but you can put a snake through one. Snake is not a good word in that kind of a string. There you go.
There you go. Perfect. But anyway, yeah. So I know it's hard in the moment, and it's hard for me in the moment of turmoil and pain to recognize that this is building me for something in the future. This is building me to handle this. This is building me to handle other people and to help them. And I tell you, if you can allow yourself to go through this and feel it, and then I would highly recommend talking to somebody to talk through some of this stuff. But the fact that you have life experiences that hurt is going to make you one of the best kind of police officers ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll be kind, you'll be caring, you'll be, you'll do the things you need to do, but you will look at those people as people, and you'll have a little bit of a heart and a little bit of compassion and be able to help them navigate through the situation, that they are struggling with. And I know, super duper hard to see in the moment. And sometimes we reject it too. I know I have. It's just like, forget that. It hurts too much. I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't get to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just got to go through it. We got to experience it. But anyway, that's all I got. Back to you, Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. That was beautifully said, and I couldn't agree more. Just one little thing I want to touch on, and then we'll wrap this one up. You said, where was it? You said, I fear that I will cause them more pain. I get it. It's important. I'm gonna just try to touch on this lightly. Joe just talked about how pain is necessary for growth. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And there's the golden rule, which is don't hurt anybody. That's actually not the golden rule. Do unto others as they would do unto you. Or as you would wish they do unto you. But anyways, we live in a world where we're like, well, hurting people is bad, so don't hurt anybody. And that's kind of true. Like, hurting people is, like, if your intention is to hurt people, yeah, that's bad, right? If you recognize, like, hey, this is going to hurt them, I should do it. Like, that's bad. I agree. And you should have tried to avoid hurting people, and I get that, and I agree. But the point of life isn't to get by with as little struggle as possible. The point of life isn't to get by with the least amount of pain as possible. The point of life is not trying to get by as comfortably as possible. I mean, if you do those things, you usually end up weak and complacent, and you usually end up in a position where you're relying on other people to serve you. And that's not a good position to be in. uh, so life isn't about trying to dodge pain, and sometimes you have to talk about the things that you think will hurt other people, or do things that you think will hurt other people, not because it's what's going to hurt them or because you think that you're smarter than them. That's not true either, right? Because we can be stupid, and we have to recognize that. But more so that life is an important thing, and it's worth living, and it's worth making it worth something. And you have to confront that pain. And sometimes you have to give other people a chance to confront that pain so that they're not bound up. Sometimes you have to give other people a chance to confront that sorrow or struggle to help eventually make this world better, make you and them better people, and to make something worth living. And those moments will always be there. Those moments will always come where it's like, I gotta have a difficult conversation with this person, and it's gonna be painful, and they're gonna be really upset at me. But as it stands right now, our relationship is in bad standing, and the only way to fix it is to have this conversation. Or as it stands right now, whatever it is, my intention is to make things better and make them a better person and make me a better person. And none of that happens if I don't allow them to confront this experience and allow myself to confront this experience as well. Because if things keep on going as they are, I'm preventing them from getting out of the rabbit hole. I'm the one putting the, putting the plank on the hole so they can't get out, because I'm the one that says, I won't have this conversation with you because I'm too scared it will hurt you and you're not strong enough yet. Maybe they are stronger than you think. I've had those conversations where I'm like, all right, here we go. This is it. All right, here we go. And I get into it, and I'm like, I get out of it at the other side, and I'm like, that went really well. That went really well. That went way better than I expected. Whew. Okay, that's great. So don't discount them. You don't know what they might say. You don't know how much they're willing to grow and face this, whatever it is. And you know what? You might be right. Maybe they're gonna blow up in your face or something, and that's gonna hurt. Doesn't mean that it's worth hiding from and running from, because that's not gonna do anything. Better to have people blow up in your face than to be the source of contention and being in a state where you're always running from the next struggle, or running from the next fear, or running from the next pain, because you haven't learned yet how to confront those things and recognize that you're strong enough to do so, because you are strong enough to do so. You absolutely are. It's a lot harder in life to be in the position of anxious over what's going to happen than it is to be in the position of on the opposite side of that, where you just did the thing and it turned out bad or good or whatever. It's a lot easier to be on the opposite side of anxiety, because the scenario is done and over with, even if someone blew up in your face. Because one is in the past and one is in the future, and the future is where we're going. The past is already done. And also, you have to experience those things to become the best version of yourself, whatever that might be. And you can know that you've done the right thing in that moment, or at least tried. But anyhow, yeah. Well, anyways, that's I tried to keep that short. I think I failed. But anyways, thank you so much, Baka. I know we talked on your topic for a long time, and I hope that everyone here is not bored of us on the topic, but you know, sometimes we like to do a deep dive and really talk about these things, and do our best to help, because that's what we're here to do, right? Do our best to help. So I apologize if we went a little long, but yeah. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for some, like, Saule. If you didn't see Baka, Saule put some stuff in the chat that's helpful, and yeah, so did Myanglios. Wow, Myanglios. There we go. And yeah, I recommend giving them a read. So thank you so much, Baka. You're amazing. We love you. And we wish you the best for your roads ahead. Yeah. Thank you, Baka.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, you ready to do another one?
Yeah.
Yes. You think? Okay. Well, all right.
I think maybe.
You think maybe? Well, hold on a minute. Let's see. Trying to see. We've got one in here that said that it was somewhat urgent, but they wanted to be here, and they haven't been here for 2 weeks now. And I asked them, and I'm trying to remember what they said about it. They said the situation sort of already sorted itself out, but if we want to take up the topic while we're not there, it would not be a problem to do so. Okay. So we can actually pull that off the urgency list. But so that's also, they don't have to be present. Let's see. We also have one from Hatsu. Hatsu.
We got a couple.
Yeah, we've got a couple from Hatsu. So, Hatsu, I'm gonna give this over to you. We've got several from you. One of them is listed as forgetfulness of topics, and it's from Joe's secret twin, and I think that's Hatsu, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but that was just a how do I remember my topics. I don't know how to help you with that one.
Yeah, great. I don't know. All right, done. Topic done. Another one was submitted by me. And then it says Ryan submitted it. It said beauty. The topic is beauty. To talk about beauty, and maybe in a deep way. And then the last one, self-disobedience. I think that's probably a better topic. Yeah, you see, you're down for one of yours. Always. Yeah. So, do you want to do the self-disobedience one, or you want to do the one on beauty? What are you thinking, Hatsu? I don't know actually if the beauty one. What is the beauty should be its own topic? Yeah. Yeah. Give me an answer there, Hatsu. That way I know which one I should jump on. Yeah. Youngest, I know that's a rough time. I remember that.
Obedience.
Let's do it.
The self dissing
of obedience. Yeah, don't you diss self obedience. Wow. Well, anyways, perfect. Thank you. I'm gonna pull this topic on stream, regardless of how short it is. There it is for you guys. It is, this one's from Hatsu, as we said before. It's titled Self-Disobedience, and it reads as follows. When I tell myself what to do, I always seem to disobey it. Yeah. When I tell myself what to do, I always seem to disobey it. Yeah, that's yeah, I think that's
that all the time.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty common experience, I think, for many of us. And I also realized last one I forgot to put the topic on the board for you, guys, so that you can see what the topic we're on is for people joining in. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to fix that. This time I'm gonna put it there, even though it doesn't want to do what I'm telling it to do. There we go. All right, there we go. Now the topic's on the board. All right. So, um, yeah, no, this is a really good topic. This is a really good topic, and I think this is something that a lot of us deal with. Probably all of us deal with. Just the when you recognize there's something you should do, you tell yourself to do it, and you decide, you know what, I'm not going to do that in spite of myself. That's an interesting thing. Maybe there's some self-respect issues, or maybe there's just a bad habit, issue of bad habit, or maybe there's something else entirely different hidden beneath. There's a lot of different possibilities, but regardless, I think it's worth jumping into this one, and we're trying to solve it, because I think that if we could solve this one, the world would be a better place. I think you would be a better person. I think we'd all be better for it. So I
I
think it's
would.
worth,
I sure would be better
yeah.
for it if I could
Mm-hmm.
fix this in my own life for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So I think definitely something worth diving into and trying to figure out together. So let's give it a shot. Joe, I'm gonna give it over to you, and let's see what you can teach us, because maybe we just need to all come together and teach each other something here.
Hey, maybe.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, we'll see. Oh, was that you handing it over to me?
Yeah, there was. But then I do that.
Oh,
Was
okay.
it a little too rigid? I need to do it more smoothly next time, or was it too
No, it's
smooth?
fine. It was so smooth I didn't even know it was happening, and
Oh
so I
wow.
wasn't. I
Well,
didn't
my
like
bad.
pick
Hold on.
up on
Let's. I'll do it
it.
differently this time. Hey Joe, it's your turn.
Talk about self-disobedience, man. I do this all the time. Like there are so many things that I'm like, okay, either something I know I should be doing or that I need to do, and then I don't get myself to do, or something I know I need to not be doing, and then I just,
Yep.
run right off and do it. Right? Like I do this to myself
Mm-hmm.
almost, I think probably daily. Probably.
Probably.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe not daily. And it's so funny. Like I caught myself in an instance of doing, I won't go into what it was, because I'm still working through it, right? Maybe on the other side of things, I'll be open to talk about and give you some details. But, it's like, I'm going to do this thing, aren't I? I'm like, yep, I'm going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Been there. It's like, this would be a bad idea. I shouldn't do that.
I
I'm
know
gonna
I
do
need
it.
to not do this.
Why am I
I'm
gonna
not,
do it?
and
Don't.
I've resolved. I'm like, I'm not doing this, man. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not gonna. Nope. And then I find myself doing it, and I was just like, yep, there I go again.
Mm-hmm.
And I even laughed at myself earlier today. I was just like, I'm gonna do it, aren't I? Yep, I am.
That's when you know you've given in. That's oof.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
been
like,
there.
all right. But at least I'm consciously, I'm understanding. Okay, here's the thing. Behaviors take time to change sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do something for a while and it starts to become a habit, and then we're more and more apt to doing it. And so then we just keep doing it. And then we recognize, you know what, this is probably is not the best thing to do. Like, biting my fingernails or something, and I look down at my fingernails. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bite that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway, and now I have nice, not long fingernails. Now they're a little jagged in some spots, but whatever, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how that works. But, you know, it's so funny because we trick ourselves, and this is one of those things where I don't think any of us are perfect, and anybody who says they are, they're lying and prideful.
I'm a perfect liar.
Mm.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm terrible at lying.
Well, it's good that you don't lie.
Yeah, I
I,
try
I
not
don't know if
to.
I've ever experienced you lying before.
I hope I
You know,
haven't.
yeah. But anyway, um, so yeah. I mean, I could have submitted this topic and been like, "How do I do this?"
Yeah.
I don't know, but here's one of the things that I've recognized about myself, right? So there may be a behavior that I know I need to start.
Mm.
And I know it needs to happen, but then I just can't get myself to do it. Right. And I tell myself, tomorrow I'm going to do this. I'm going to start doing this and I'm going to make it happen and it's going to be great, right? And I'm going to start this process and I'm going to make it a habit and it's going to be awesome. And so then I get up the next day and I'm just, oh, I don't know. I just don't feel like it. Or, man, I don't know. Yeah, I can come up with all kinds of excuses why, it would be better for me not to do it today. And then I can start it. I can push it off till the next day or whatever. Right. But sometimes it takes starting small. Sometimes it takes starting small because the key element in this is discipline and self-forgiveness. Because you're never going to do it perfectly. I promise. It's, I don't know if we ever fully accomplish this to perfection. Probably not. There are always going to be things that maybe are off our radar screen that we don't even think about. And we just do them. Or we don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't even think about it, right? And it's something that whatever. But those things, that we do take notice of, and we're like, yeah, I need to fix this, or I need to change this, or I need to not do this, or I need to do this, or whatever it is, right? Start small. Start small in an unrelated area. And what you'll find is you are capable of discipline. Every single one of us is capable of discipline. But the thing is the things that are glaringly obvious to us, they're generally big things because they're glaringly obvious. And so they're going to be tougher to have the discipline to maintain. So start small. You can start by, when you brush your teeth, really focus on brushing every tooth and making sure you get every one of them. Or try to start flossing if you don't. Right? Man.
Yeah, it's a hard habit to start.
That's a tough one, right? Because always the first time you start after it's been a long, long time, you're like bleeding and everything. There's like
I like that part. I just don't like when I get used to it and it doesn't bleed anymore.
Oh. Well.
It's not nearly as fun,
Aren't you just special?
Mm-hmm. Oh, certainly.
Yeah. So you can start with that. You can start with, hey, I'm just going to read a paragraph out of a book every day. I'm going to stop myself there. I'm going to make my bed. So maybe that's a big one. I know I'm in the habit of making my bed. It's really easy. And I've gotten it all worked down to a science.
Mm-hmm.
So I make my bed with myself still in it. So I'm lying in bed, and then I'll sit up and I'll put my back against the wall behind me, or the headboard, or whatever it is that's behind me. And I'll pull all the covers up, and set them down, over my lap and whatever. And I'll fold them over so it's nice. But so I've basically made my bed because I don't want to get up and I don't want to walk around my bed and then walk back around my bed and then walk back around my bed to get it perfect because I'm a stinking perfectionist, right? And so it's got to look good. It's got to be perfect. I found I sit in my bed. I pull the blankets up over my legs because I'm sitting up. And I pull all the covers over my legs. And I straighten them out, I flatten them out, and both edges of the bed I can reach with my arms because I'm sitting up in the middle of my bed. And I fold it over nicely. And then I just kind of fold over one corner so I can slide out. And then I put that little corner back.
That's right.
That's it.
Just nice.
And then plop my pillow down on there and then my bed's made, right? It only takes a second. But that's one little thing that we can start doing that then empowers us to take on bigger things, right? That's the key. Because sometimes when we're facing the thing that is obvious that we need to change, it's generally going to take more discipline than we have in the moment. So we need to start developing disciplines in our own, like in smaller areas, so we can build up our strength in discipline, and then we can start to tackle some of the bigger ones. And it's okay. This is all a process. This is all something. But what direction are we moving in is the question. What direction am I moving in with this particular situation? Key one is awareness. So you're already moving in the right direction, Hatsu, because you're aware and you realize something needs to change. I need to do something differently, and I continually disobey myself. This is a problem. Now, here is the downfall of this experience. If you're like me, you beat yourself up when you don't do the thing that you need to be doing, or you do the thing that you need to not be doing.
Right.
So I will beat myself up, and I'll do it for days and days and days on end. And I'll just be like, oh, I'm such a horrible person, whatever, and like my brain will just be like, man, if I was a better person, I'd be able to handle this, or I'd be able to do this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just like psych myself out. And so then what becomes important is the ability to forgive myself. And I need to say, okay, fine. So I did that. Well, tomorrow I can try again. Okay. And maybe if it's something that, I've done a lot and I do it, and like I've done this particular habit or whatever, multiple times per day, maybe it's like about knocking it down, and doing it less and less and less and less until you get to the point where you're not doing it anymore. You're not thinking of it anymore and it's gone, right? Or vice versa. It's something that I need to be doing, but I need to build myself up to it. Like exercise was a big thing, right? Now I have a fairly decent habit of exercise that comes and goes. And it's interesting because every time I restart the habit of exercise, I have to start with something small and short, something that's not going to take very long and it's not going to be very hard, but it's something that I can say, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. Good. And maybe it's a matter of having something where you can write it down and you can check it off a list. I have a magnetic whiteboard with different little magnetic blocks of different tasks that I need to do. And I have it set up for the days of the week. And so I take this little block and I put it up there and I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do this day. And I like stack them up, like these are the things I need to do. And then as I do them, I take them down and I, or I'll move them to the next day if I get to a point where it's like, okay, I've done everything I can in this regard and it's still not finished, but, I can't go any farther today. So then I'll move it to the next day, right? Or 2 days from now, whatever, right? Whenever I'm going to have time again. So sometimes there are things like that. And really, all these things are on a scale. You're never going to be perfect, like I said before. But the question is, what direction are you moving in? Because you're either like life, there's nothing in life that just sits still.
Right.
You're either moving in one direction or you're moving in the other direction. And so, are your behaviors, are they increasing the good habits that you're trying to develop and thereby decreasing the bad ones? Right? What direction are you moving in any particular one? And I can say sometimes with some things, it's all over the place, man. It's like back and forth and back. Some days I do better than others. Some days I do worse than others. Some days, I'm got all my ducks in a row and I take care of stuff. And then other days it's just a mess. I know. But all I have at the end of the day, when I'm looking back over my day and I'm like, okay, well, I failed here, I failed here, I failed here, I succeeded here. This I got done, this I did, this was good, blah, 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 blah. And I'll take a little bit of an assessment and I'll be like, okay, well, now this day's over. Can't do anything else about today. So every day is kind of like starting over, but I'm not starting over. Because I'm starting with the progress that I've already made. Now, the progress that I made that day might have gone forward or it might have gone backward. But each day is a new beginning at that level of progress that I'm at. Does that make sense? So, anyway, it can be done. I have broken bad habits. I've gotten rid of bad habits by replacing them with better ones. I have also gone the other direction. I've done both. So I know it's possible. And I know it's possible for you too. Like you can do this. But it just might be a matter of doing something simple enough. Maybe a totally unrelated habit. Develop a different habit that you can then move forward with. Something simple. Set the bar a little bit lower on yourself so you can jump over the bar, and that gives you the confidence that you can do the next one. They do this with boxers, right? Like fighters. They will line up their fights in a way that they'll, like when someone's kind of starting this campaign, they'll start off easy. They'll be like, okay, this is an easier opponent. And I wanted to give you this easier opponent just to get a little bit more confidence, because then as you go forward, you're going to be facing tougher and tougher opponents. But each time you win, you're going to build some confidence. And then when they have a loss, they might have to, go back and rebuild some of that confidence. And so they'll line up the fight schedule in a way that they can, they can match up with something with someone that they can build confidence with, right? So anyway, that's my best recommendation. And I know I've talked for a while, but most of it was just me talking about, man, I'm the same as you. I do the same thing. And I know it's hard, but it's okay. So you can move forward. And where you're at today is not where you're going to be tomorrow. And it's not going to be where you're at a week from now. And you get to decide, okay, how do I move? And then the real hard key is to not beat yourself up. I still do it. If I ever come up with the answer for that, I will gladly share it with you. But I'm a pro self-beater upper. I'm good at it. So anyway,
you need to
that's
set
what I
yourself
got.
up with an opponent that's easier to beat than yourself.
Oh my gosh. Good luck.
Yeah,
that's what I got. I'm turning it over to Ryan now.
All right, I'll give him my best. This is a hard one. I'm not gonna lie. Here's some thoughts I have about it. Okay. See which one do I want to start on? Okay. Something you can do, and it's a silly exercise, and I can't guarantee that it works because it's theoretical. But it, by theory, should work. And so here's what I would recommend you doing. Me and so Nyansai and I had a conversation about this. But something you can do. Also, Riku's suggestion about her friend setting one thing that Riku's friend there. Riku's friend has one thing they do a day, and they do that, and they get that thing done. That's a great confidence builder, and it really helps, and it sets your whole day up for like, it just makes it feel great. Because you're like, because you get the thing done, and you're like, wow, I had a successful day today because I did the one thing I said I needed to do. It feels great. So I would recommend that. But anyways, my theoretical advice here is this: tell yourself to do something and do it. And I want that thing to be stupid and silly and easy. Like I will grab a Kleenex out of that box, and then you grab a Kleenex out of the box, and then you say, I will take a sip of coffee. I will, or whatever.
I will drink my mug water.
Oh, yeah. See if he does it. I can hear it. Good job. I was like, I wonder, is he faking it? So anyways, you tell yourself to do these things. And the idea is, again, this is just theory, but the idea, what am I, from Texas? The idea is
I don't think that's a Texas thing.
Oh, it's not? No, they say washer instead of washer. So that's what
in Texas?
Yeah. I'm going to go wash my clothes.
A good idea. I think that sounds like more like a Northeast thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not Northeast. So anyways, yeah. Technically Northeast.
We're Midwesterners, right?
Yeah, Midwesterners, even though technically we're the Northeast. So stupid.
Whatever.
Anyways, terminology for America when they made their states is dumb. But anyways, they're like, hey, this is on the east side. What should we call it? The Middle West. No, dude, you're an idiot. No, that's what we're going to call it. Okay. And now that's what we call it. So anyways, so dumb. Anyways, where was it? Okay, so you tell yourself to do things, and it trains your mind to be more accepting of your brain telling you to do things, and not feel like you should put your guard up, or feel like you're going to let yourself down, or feel like you need to obey or disobey. I mean, it's like a trust exercise. It's like a trust exercise, and you realize that, hey, I can trust myself. I can do these things. So maybe that's an idea. I don't know. I think that it's just a habit that is something that might form a habit, because trying to undo a habit is hard, but trying to make a new habit is easier, and that can replace it. And I think if you train yourself that it's okay to listen to yourself and do the things you say you're going to do, and that there's not really grave consequences for telling yourself, like, take a drink of water, and you take a drink of water. That could be helpful. So yeah. Here's some other thoughts. Right along with the lines of what Joe was talking about not beating yourself up. So first, recognize I learned this in a context that was in confession. So it was like a godly context. And the context was this. It's like, I keep on doing this thing. And they said, well, have you tried being thankful? Instead of like being upset that you keep on doing this thing, how much have you thanked God for the times he's helped you in this? How much have you thanked God for the times he's helped you not do this thing, or has helped you stay on track? How often do you thank God for that? And I was like, okay, that's a great question. I thank God daily, but have I thanked God for this specific fault or specific thing where I keep on doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, or whatever, doing the opposite of what I'm telling myself to do? have I spent time manifesting that into a form of thanks, something I could be thankful for, as opposed to something that I'm worried about or something that I'm critical of myself on. And why would you do that? Well, if you are critical on yourself, you respect yourself less. And if you respect yourself less, you're more likely to fail yourself. You're less likely to listen to yourself. And here's the thing. Also, I got a question for you. Do you ever want to be in a romantic relationship?
The answer is no.
The answer is however you want it to be, Hansu.
Yes,
Honest
that's true.
question.
Actually, yes, that's true.
If
I'm
yes,
I'm totally kidding.
yeah. If you ever wanted a friendship, how about we go there? Have you ever wanted like friends? Let me tell you something. One of the most attractive thing to people is integrity. Integrity is, I mean, one thing you could say it is doing the things you say you're going to do. Character and integrity. When you say, I'm going to do this, and you do it, people are attracted to that. That is one of the building blocks of beauty. What makes something objectively beautiful, which is there's a lot of philosophy done in that realm. Anyways, one of the blocks of it is integrity. Integrity makes something beautiful because it has oneness. The word integrity comes from integritas, which is Latin, and it sort of means oneness, wholeness, meaning it's not divided against itself. It's not divided with itself. It's whole. It's beautiful in that sense. It's oriented to one thing and not trying to be oriented to two things at once, right? That's integritas. That's integrity. And so, what I would say is that's an incredibly beautiful and attractive trait. And if you want to be and exhibit that trait of having character and integrity, having the kind of mentality that says, I'm not going to be divided against myself. Well, then one of the key components of that is stop dividing yourself, right? And so when you choose to recognize where you've been victorious, you promote victory. And if you choose to recognize where you are failing, you promote failure. Because you are noticing more and more that you're divided against yourself. And that makes you angry with yourself. And so the chances of you not being happy with yourself and choosing to be divided is greater. Because it just makes sense. It's like you see someone who did something against you. What are your chances that you're not going to be their friend now? What are their chances that you're going to do things on purpose that they're not going to be happy about? That you're going to purposely do things that they're not going to be happy with. You're going to go a different direction than them. Well, the greater degree that they are your enemy, the greater degree that you are going to be against them. People that have put themselves against you, chances are you're not going to be wanting to be in the same boat as them fishing, right? You're not going to want to be with them. And so, one of the roots, or one of the things that you can do was what Joe was saying, and that is to not be at ends with yourself. Get in the same boat with yourself. And one way to promote that is to be thankful of your triumphs. And I recognize that just saying, well, I'm going to dismiss and ignore all of my faults then. Again, obviously that's not helpful. But you have to be in the same boat with yourself and have those discussions to solve them. And if all you do is berate yourself, there's a difference between berating yourself and beating yourself up and working through something. You know? Very different things. And so you have to be on your side. So if you can get on your side, I'm not going to say you're going to be able to perform this perfectly, but what I am going to say is that you're going to performing better because you're no longer divided with yourself, and you're united with yourself, and that goes a long way, especially when it's like, am I willing to listen to myself and my own ideas? Am I willing to take these actions? I know I'm going to like doing this, but I'm choosing not to. I know this is what's going to be healthy for me, but I'm choosing not to. It's like, where's your integrity? Where's your respect for yourself to listen to yourself to do those things? Like, where did that go? And it's like, well, maybe it left you because of how you were treated in life. Maybe it left because of how you treated yourself. Maybe you bought into some lies about yourself, right? We have all done that. We've all been trained to be bad people from in certain times in our life. Trained to be someone's tool. Trained to whatever. Yeah. And so
if I was in the same boat with myself half my life, I'd kick that dude out.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Get out of here, punk. I'm taking over this boat. All right, but yeah, so it's a hard thing to it's a hard thing to solve, but I don't think not solving it is gonna solve it. And what I mean by that is you have to do something. And you have to have integrity. You have to have oneness with yourself. You have to be about something. Because if you're about something and you're together with it, like, all parts of me are on the same page. This is where we're going. That's the place you want to be, and that's the place where you stop making those mistakes. When you and you and you and you, as in like one person, by the way, when all of you is together in the boat of saying, you know what? There's this person, and I will not break my whatever with them. I will not like fail them. Or there's this activity, and I will not betray that activity. There's this person, I will not betray that friendship. And so now your motives are set, and all of you are set there. Now anything in that realm of like, well, I should do this, but I'm not going to, you snuff that right out. Because all of you is on board. Because you go, that thought crosses your mind and you're like, no, I can't. I'm not going to betray them anymore. I'm not going to. Or, maybe it's like, I could do my homework, but playing a game sounds better. I mean, I would probably feel better at the end of the day if I did my homework, but yeah, I should do my homework. Turns on the gaming system, Yeah, and so when all of you is on board, you have so many different yous that are correcting yourself, saying, no, dude. And yeah, if you have one person that's not on board, they could tip the whole boat over. Just if it's one person of you inside that goes, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm not trying to preach some weird new age idea that we have multiple people inside our head. That's not the point here. The point is, we have many different facets and many different ways that we're trying to go in life. But if everyone gets on, if the whole unit of yourself and your intentions get on one point, and you face towards that point, and you say, I will not betray that point, then you have reduced a lot the amount of times that you're going to betray yourself. And for some people, that's God. And so when you're thankful for God and you spend time with God, you increase that relationship with Him, and that increases your relationship with yourself and gets you more pointed and on board with a cause and a good and etc. But not for everybody, right? Not everybody here believes in God. So I'm gonna put that on another perspective. It could be anything. It can be any kind of relationship. I'm not trying to say. I'm sorry. Okay, obviously God is good. I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna try to cover that up. But my point isn't I need you to believe in God to solve this issue. My point is, I need you to be connected with yourself and be wanting the same things as yourself. And that's hard to get there. But what are you about? I think if you can figure out what you're about, I think that helps a lot. Take time. Take some time to be bored. To figure out, what are you about? What is that thing that you will not betray? What is your last stand? What hill are you dying on? And point yourself there. And when you point yourself there and you're on board, if you make the things you do about that thing, chances are you're not going to betray yourself anymore. As much, at least. And for some people, that's a relationship. Some people, that's I fell in love with this person, and now I'm a changed person. I'm a better man. I'm a better woman, because I will not sacrifice anything for the best. I will not sacrifice anything for what's not the best, is what I meant to say. What's lacking. I will do my best. I will do my all, and all of me is pointed in this direction. And I will make everything I do about this thing, about making this work right, about making me into the person that can make this work right. So for some people, it's when you enter that encounter of, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship or whatever. For some people, that's God. For some people, it's all sorts of different things. And I don't mean you should make an idol of everything in the world just to get yourself on board, or just to get yourself pulled together. There are certain things that are good for you and certain things that are bad, right? Obviously. I mean, if you make yourself about food, that could be unhealthy, and it could also be healthy. But my point is, I think I said my point, but it's to get yourself to have integrity requires that you point yourself in a direction that you are willing to submit to. You're willing to submit yourself to it because it's worth it to you. And I don't know if that is a solution or if that's a band-aid. But I do know that it helps. I will say that. I don't know if that's the solution or if that's the band-aid. I feel like part of me thinks it's partially a band-aid and part of me thinks that it's going to heal over time if you put a band-aid on it. So it might be the solution. But I think the root of the problem isn't necessarily that you're not pointed in the same direction, though it could be. The root of the problem might be self-respect. The root of the problem might be something else that I'm not even aware of. I'm not going to get into angels and demons, but I will say I've had a lot of success on recognizing where my angels and demons are. And when I recognize there's a demon in the room, in here, and going, hey, to mess me up, if I recognize that, I'm not going to give you a victory. I don't like you. That helps a lot. So, if you can recognize those inner demons and choose that you don't want them to win, it helps you direct your behavior a lot. For sure. Just being aware of that. So, that's what I got. I hope that's helpful. I know that's my best. It's the best that I got. That's the best I got. Sorry. Anyways, Joe, I'm gonna give it back to you. Do you have anything you want to add?
Man, I don't know if I could add anything to that. I think you spelled out a whole bunch of great stuff as far as the inner workings of our mind and our hearts. And like, hey, it was funny. Like immediately you were like, as soon as I see a demon in the room, I tell Joe to leave.
That's great. No, you're not a demon, man. You're great.
That's all right. No, man, I can relate with this so much, Hatsu.
There's been a lot of comment
And
on this on the chat too, so thank you guys.
absolutely, absolutely. I think this is a pretty common thing, like we all have things that we would like to do better and that we don't do, and Ryan talks about, making a stand, taking a stand, for someone we love or for ourselves or for whatever, and say like, what line am I not willing to cross? And those can be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and sometimes we even still then cross those lines.
Yep. Sometimes we do.
Mm-hmm. And that's when reconciliation can happen.
Oh, sure.
That's when forgiveness and repentance can take place. And then we become stronger as a result, right? And so it can be good. So, but that doesn't mean you just live your life willy-nilly and, just don't do anything. So you have those opportunities, because you wouldn't have the opportunities if your conscience didn't tell you something that was right or wrong, right? So like, anyway, whatever. It's tough. I know.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully between what Ryan and I have said, we've given you a little bit of insight into how this works. But the key in my mind, the thing I have to remind myself over and over and over again is don't beat yourself up. Because I know me. I know that I'm good at that. And Ryan talks about angels and demons, there's like a host of demons ready to remind me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
for sure.
Ready to just tell
me, ready to just tear you down. Oh yeah.
Yep. And they're gonna beat me up. And I'm gonna beat myself up. I'm gonna join right in with them, and that's gonna be the way it is, right? So anyway, you're human.
Mm-hmm.
You can get better.
Mm-hmm.
You probably won't get perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Because I don't think anybody this side of, the veil is perfect. Because there's always going to be something else. There will always be something to be better at. There will always be something to be better with. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like what you talked about, like, hey, tell myself something simple and maybe even silly that I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do it. Like, see this little book? I'm going to throw it on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Done. Man, you're such powerful. It's a powerhouse right there. Someone who says they're going to do something and does it is, like, seriously, that's really attractive.
Mm-hmm.
We all fail that from time to time, but it's...
Well, and even if they... I'm not going to get into it. We're already at 10 o'clock, and if I open this door, we're going to be here for a long time. But
fair enough.
Even if you fail, the fact that you poured everything you had into it, yes, that's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you fail over and over and over again, but you still try, and you still keep trying, and you still work, and you still...
It's super attractive. Because we know it's good. Attracted to that.
Yep. So, anyway, that's all.
Yeah, no, thanks. Great. I just want to touch on one little thing. I hope Nyansai doesn't help me, or doesn't dislike me sharing. And Nyansai and I were talking about a similar issue, as I stated before. And she put this in the chat. So, also pay attention to your thoughts and feelings when you are doing the task you are trying to avoid. That's a great insight. That's a really great insight. If you can pay attention to how you treat yourself and how you feel, like, let's say it's homework, just as an example, and you start doing your homework, Nyansai actually I hope she doesn't mind me saying, recorded herself doing her drawings and that she was avoiding. And she noticed, okay, it's okay, good. She noticed that she was really critical, and the only thing she said, like, she was trying to speak out loud the whole time so that she could understand what was going on in her mind while she was working. So she was working and she was saying things out loud, and she noticed everything she said was a critique of herself, and or that something wasn't good enough or whatever, and it was all negative. And I think that she could talk more about it in the chat, so I don't necessarily imply things that aren't accurate, but it seems to me that that was really helpful, because when you, part of the reason you might be avoiding something is because you don't notice how much of a stress and strain it is on you because of the way you treat yourself when you're doing that sort of thing, because you aren't self-aware when you're focused. When you're focused on something, it's hard to be self-aware, but you're still treating yourself some way. Right. Yeah. You didn't realize they were doing it until you recorded it. So, Hatsu, I would suggest maybe doing something similar. Record yourself or something to become aware of how you're treating yourself when you're doing those tasks that you're avoiding, because you might gain some insight as to why you've been avoiding them, and you might learn how to treat yourself nicely while you do those tasks, which will encourage you and make you feel better and more want to do them and not avoid them, because part of the reason you might be avoiding them is because of the way you're treating yourself. And there might be a whole nother reason you're avoiding them, but when you're trying to juggle things and you're like, nah, I really want to do that, it sounds like a really good idea, but I'm going to do this thing instead, there's a reason for that, and that reason might be hidden to you, and it requires a little bit of self-discovery. And so it might be that you're not treating yourself very nicely when you're doing those things, because it's easy to treat yourself nice when you're having fun, but when you're doing work that you're avoiding, and every time you do that work and you don't notice that you're just picking on yourself, yeah, that might be your problem. So anyways, just some thoughts. Anyways, that's what I got. I didn't want to keep that long. We are past our time here, just by 6 minutes, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Geez, Zephyrus. Yeah.
Good for us.
So easy to be perfectionist. Like, that can really get big a hang up. But yeah. Hey, thank you everybody for joining. We love you, and we thank you so much. And you guys put awesome stuff in the chat, and it's really helpful. And yeah, we just love this community. You guys are so nice and kind and loving and good to each other. So you guys are amazing. But yeah, Joe, anything you want to add?
I love you guys. You're
awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, me too. That's
it.
This show is brought to you by us. This show is brought to you by Black Setting and Swerve, recording company, whatever you want to call that, record label.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, we really appreciate you guys, and we love you, and we hope to see you again next week. Until then, we hope you have an awesome life. And then, you know what? I shouldn't say until then. Even after that, we hope you have an awesome life, because it's just how we work here. We just really think you should have an awesome life. So stay awesome, I guess. All right. Love you guys.
Right on.
Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Peace.